Mysterious Mrs. A. Chapter 9. Leelavati Again. I was now convinced that Mrs. A., Madam, and Leelavati were all the same. But the only way I could prove this was if Anamika, or Seema, as I think her to be, confessed, or Leelavati came clean. There was no way and there was no reason for this to happen. But what really bugged me was what if I was wrong once again? I did not want more egg on my face. Those who are familiar with Agatha Christie will know that in the very end of her mesmerizing stories, there would be a showdown and the real culprit would stand exposed by the detective Hercule Poirot. But I am not Hercule Poirot, and this is not fiction. I wanted to play the famed detective for once, but I do not have any justification for violating the privacy of decent people. I was not a policeman, or even a detective, or even closely related to the principal characters of this story. I do not have the personality or the charm to talk people into confessing their crimes. How then was I going to solve the mystery of Mrs. A? Lunch was over, and we once again assembled in the hall. The children were there too. Anamika was preparing tea for all of us. I was edgy, and I knew that I was ready to burst any time now. Sita was looking at me with great concern. Leelavati ji, I said, there's something that has been bothering me and I want your permission to speak about it. Since it concerns your husband, I will understand if you do not want your children to be present when we discuss. Rajesh ji, Leelavati said, you can talk freely about anything. I am curious to know what bothers you. सीता मुझे बहुत अच्छी लगती है. I have taken a liking for her and I have shared a lot with her. I have nothing to hide from my children. So, whatever you want to ask me about my husband, feel absolutely free to ask. I think you are bothered about this scandal involving your Swamiji. Please talk and we shall listen. Let Anamika also be here. Well, I said, how should I begin? Sita has been Swamiji's devotee, and it was she who encouraged me to go to the ashram. Swamiji impressed me, and soon we struck a personal relationship. When he got embroiled in the sex scandal, it disturbed me because my knowledge about Swamiji was limited only to the personal interactions I had with him, and they were pleasant for me. For reasons unknown to me and which I cannot explain even now, I started taking active interest in the case. I wanted to know more about Swamiji, and I discovered that his journey from being born as Hriday Narayan Tiwari to becoming the most revered Swamiji and then a union minister was fascinating. I even visited his birthplace and Mataji's ashram, where I met and spoke with a devotee called Annabel. I could put a lot of information together to draw the picture of a very ordinary man who, by chance or destiny, overtook his own spiritual guru to become more famous and powerful. He was ambitious and he believed that he could play God. He had grown big in stature, but he was still a human being. His fondness for women began, perhaps, when he was being worshipped like God in Mataji's ashram. Mataji knew about it but did not make it an issue. The godman had forgotten that all it takes to be good and God are the qualities that we all aspire to imbibe, yet find it very difficult to assimilate within us. He saw that his wife and children were no more relevant in his journey and that they would be impediments to his progress. So he sent them away much to his wife's chagrin. She knew about his weakness and reasoned with him, but to no avail. She realized that her husband had slipped into another universe of his own, where his family was not present. Despite knowledge of her husband's transgressions at Mataji's ashram, she outwardly defended and supported him. Women are not as frail as we often make them to be. Why? Women themselves project the image of being frail and helpless. The hurt and humiliated wife bides her time in a remote village, weighing her options, seeking to heal her wounded feelings. She cannot afford to fight her husband openly because she knows his strength and influence. But she knows that the best way to avenge was through his weakness, and so she devises a foolproof plan where she would not have to show herself at all, yet deliver her husband a blow that would destroy him and his world completely. She needed a weapon, not a gun or a knife, but a girl who can work her way into her husband's bed and then strike him where it would hurt him most. Death is not as hurtful as destruction of one's identity. The plan was brilliant. The weapon had been carefully chosen by the wife and skillfully deployed. Luckily for her, there were people other than her who had their own strong motives and a deadly agenda for the godman. People within his party hated him for the quick progress he was making within their ranks. The weapon she finally chose was a very good one that had great experience of lusting men, drooling men, and weak men. She had known every kind of man there was since she was a child. She also knew powerful men and could befriend two of them from Godman's party. The execution of the plan depended on the money that those involved could make. Nothing was free. Where would the money come from? Mrs. A's brilliance showed here. It is possible that even though she was no more important to her husband, he still had some love left for her and the children. Being mortal, he felt enormous guilt for what he had done to them. The least he could do now was to ensure that they were safe and comfortable. The knowledge that his wife had discovered his worst secret made him afraid of her, and he dared not antagonize her. She had the upper hand, and she knew it. But she never tried to play the card on Swami. Instead, she publicly stood in support of her husband. She proposed to fund the operation against her husband with his money. To make it sweet for everyone, she would ask for a large sum of money, 5 crores. She would make some excuse if he asked. She knew he would never ask. Swamiji should have been alerted when his wife had asked him for such a huge sum of money. Perhaps he was alarmed but hesitated to ask her. I cannot figure out the reasons. He could not have managed the entire money in one go, and so he told her through his trusted aide, Pyare Mohan, that the money could only be sent in installments. This suited the wife. And so the plan to humiliate, expose, and destroy the godman was put in motion by the cunning Mrs. A. Only the girl she had hired for the job knew she was the mastermind, and the girl had sworn utmost allegiance to Madam. Nothing could have gone wrong with the plan. For one full year, the girl kept the godman busy with her charms and was even recording the events for posterity. When the right time came, she struck and struck hard. The world exploded for Swamiji, and he could do nothing about it. But God helped the godman, and that too through the very girl who was destroying him. The girl was an effective weapon, but forgot that it could destroy her if it misfired. The conspirators' idea to have taped evidence of their involvement in the crime was perhaps disastrous not only for them but also for Madam. So here we are, Madam. This is my theory, and I could be wrong, for there is no evidence for whatever I have said. There was a deathly silence in the room. My heart was banging hard against my chest as I waited for the storm that would come. Rajesh ji, Leelavati's daughter spoke for the first time. Assuming that all that you said is true, what do you propose to do with this? Ankita, I said, I am sorry if what I said about your parents hurts you and your brother. I had to get it off my chest. You know, your father's case has been haunting me and I got dragged into it. Maybe because I am a journalist, maybe because your father made a good impression on me. I don't know. As to your question, what I propose to do with the information, I myself don't know. Frankly, all my inquiries and investigations really had no purpose other than to satisfy my curiosity. I am not being paid for this, nor have I been commissioned by anyone to write a story. Then you must be told the truth, Rajesh ji. Your narrative assures me that you will not put us in any kind of trouble with the police or public. I believe you. Most of what you have said is correct, but there is much more to it. I hated my father since my childhood. We were poor and lived in a slum in Delhi, a single room shanty. We lived with our grandparents, and the space there was not enough for all of us to sleep. My grandparents slept outside in the open with my brother. I slept with my parents inside. My father started sexually abusing me when I was just 10. I didn't even tell my mother about it till much later. When my father got involved in a potential scandal at the Mehroli ashram, Mataji called my mother to tell her about it, and I had accompanied her. It was there that I told Mataji and Ma about the abuse. Ma spoke to father, and they had an argument over me and his deviant ways. We decided that we could not live with him any longer, and it was Ma who asked him to arrange a house for us in her village. Father was not sure whether to let us go because he was afraid that we may act against him. He was fighting an election and had separated from Mataji. He did not want trouble at home. Ma promised him that she would never speak about him to anyone as long as he maintained us and paid for anything we wanted now or later. He agreed, but on the condition that we would maintain as much anonymity as possible. Sita looked like she was in some kind of dream. This was something that neither of us were expecting to hear. What lay ahead, I do not know. Rajesh ji, it was Leelavati who spoke. I know you are impressed with my husband and have a lot of respect for him. But remember, even wise men have flaws. We hail Lord Rama as Maryada Purushottam, a person with the highest of ideals. Yet, even today, we cannot understand his decision to put his wife Sita on trial by fire. There are various explanations for it, but no justification if you look at it from a woman's perspective. Playing God is one thing, and being godlike is another. And it is here that we err in our judgments about this. Mataji was godlike. She adopted the girl who was abused by my husband, and tended to her with affection. She considered herself guilty for what happened to the child. She cried when Ankita told her how she was abused. I wanted to expose my husband, but Mataji asked me not to. I told her it was wrong to keep silent about his crimes. We would become his accomplices. She told me not to take action in haste, something she had also told the girl's parents. I don't know why I listened to her, but I did and let my husband go scot free. It was Annabel who consoled me and told me that my time would come, and so would his time, for punishment for his crimes. She writes to me often and inquires about our welfare, but she has no role to play in whatever happened. She knows only because I told her. It was Ankita who planned this thing. The more we sat here in our solitary confinement, the more we felt that my husband should be punished. We could not let him spoil the lives of more innocent women, but we did not know how to go about it. Pyare Mohanji visits us regularly with messages and money from my husband. He was close to Mataji, but left her to join my husband at his ashram. He has good knowledge about money, and even for Mataji, he was the one who raised and managed funds. He is honest, and he knew about my husband's fatal flaws. During one of his many visits, Ankita spoke to him about her plan. Pyaraji was close to my children, and he wept when Ankita told him what happened to her. It was Pyaraji who suggested that we should talk to a few party people who were against my husband. He did not want us to be involved. He, in fact, suggested Seema, who he knew from Mataji's ashram. Seema had met Mataji in Mehroli ashram and had sought her help to change her life. She had done many bad things but was not at peace with herself. Pyaraji was adamant that none of us should be involved in it directly. Seema spoke only to Pyaraji and the plan took shape. Money was a big problem, as Pyaraji told us that the price would be high. But he had a plan for the money too. The ashram was receiving huge funding, and it would not be difficult for my husband to fund this operation against himself. I could ask him to pay without being asked any question, and he would agree. Pyaraji took care of that, and since he is close to my husband, he ensured that the funds would flow with no problems. Seema did her job well. She even enlisted the help of some politicians and got some funding from them. The blackmail plan was hatched so that my husband not only pays for the operation but also for what he did to his daughter and family. Seema told Pyaraji that they should share the money from my husband with all involved so that there were no complications. The politicians were happy because they not only got their own money back, they would get much more as bonus and achieve their dream of destroying Swamiji. Only my daughter spoke to Seema, and that too on phone. There you are, Mrs. A. Ankita. Ankita never told Seema who she was or what her name was. She asked Seema to address her as Madam. It was Pyaraji who told Seema that Madam was, in fact, one Mrs. A who had also been sexually abused by Swamiji. As for Seema, her motivation apart from the money was Mataji. She had grown fond of Mataji in her own way and hated my husband when he destroyed her reputation, name, and ashram. Though she never met my husband at the ashram, she developed negative feelings for him. The video was a mistake for which we must all pay. It was the politician's idea. They were apprehensive about the blackmail. Primarily, they had wanted only to defame and discredit my husband. They were not interested in getting any money, but the amount involved was so substantial that it aroused their suspicions. They refused to believe that it was Seema's idea and demanded to know who else was behind this. To pacify them, Seema told them about Madam and Mrs. A and even volunteered to go on video to confirm her intentions. How the driver got hold of the video is a mystery to all of us. They had shot the video on Seema's phone, but no one knows how and when the driver transferred the video to his phone. We, however, know that he first went to Pyareji with the video and demanded money. Pyareji was alarmed, but he also saw that paying the driver would not solve the problem. We did not know how many copies he must have made of the video. Well, that's the story, almost complete for you. All this was gripping and a lot for me to digest. But there were some missing links. If Seema saw none of you, how is it that she is here with you now? It was now Seema's turn to speak. When Pyareji told me about the driver and his demand, my first reaction was that we should pay him off. But Pyareji was not in favor of this. The driver then went to the police and gave them the video clip, and this led to the arrest of my partners. I knew that it would not be long before they arrested me too, and I asked Pyareji for help. I did not have any place to hide, and I did not know where to go. Pyareji knew that if I were to be caught, he would also be in trouble, though his name had figured nowhere. It was in his interest to protect me as long as possible. So it was Pyareji who arranged for me to come to this village. Even he never told me about Madam or Leelavati ji. It was Ankita who later told me. She is a kind woman and knew that I had done all this not only for money but also for Mataji. All of us had spoken and there was little left to say. Leelavati's son Ankush had spoken nothing, and now it was his turn. Uncle, we understand that all this must have shocked you and Auntie. I don't know whether what we did was right, but I know it was not wrong. All our religious texts and Puranas say that evil will be destroyed. Lord Ram killed Ravana. Lord Krishna decimated the Kauravas. To destroy evil, they had to bend some rules and break some. But we know that this is not Satyug, and here many times evil triumphs. The police will eventually apprehend Seema and she will have to come clean. Pyareji too will be implicated at some stage, and we will all be exposed and arrested. What will happen to my father? His name is already tarnished, but for how long? When we all get exposed, the public at large would sympathize with him. He was the victim of a sordid sex sting and blackmail conspiracy hatched by none other than his own treacherous family, who he had disowned long ago. People do not know about us or our reasons for committing the crime. Ma will become a jealous wife, trying to discredit her own husband with the help of her children. Sita, who was all the while listening to us wonderstruck, seemed to be galvanized into action. I am so ashamed that I was a devotee of that fake and perverted Swamiji. I did not want to come here, but I am glad that I did and get the chance to meet such wonderful people. All this sounds like a story to me, fit to be made into a movie. Perhaps Rajesh will write a novel and it will become a bestseller. I know that all you poor people are in a very messy situation. and there is nothing we can do to help you. We will both go back, keep talking about the story for some time, and then perhaps forget all about it. But it is still an open case. Once you are exposed, you will have to face punishment. I hope God finds a way that you don't get caught or punished in this life. I've heard that our karma always follows us, and every karma, good or bad, has its consequences. But I also believe that the karmic cycle can be really long in certain cases, and that is why sometimes crime goes unpunished by law and men. I hope your karmic cycle is long. At least it seems long enough for our Swamiji, as he is placed comfortably amidst all this chaos that he had created. If any, his punishment seems to be instant and short lived. I am sorry for what is happening to all of you. I finally spoke. It seems someone engineered it in such a way that Sita and I too got involved in your case. What for I still don't know. I shall tell the story as it is to be told. That is the least I can do. All we can do now is wait for the inevitable to happen. I will pray for you. May God give you enough strength to bear whatever is coming your way. End of chapter 9. Till the next episode, goodbye, and I hope you are liking this story.